Guys, so we're going to get into some spoilers now. So if you haven't seen the film, go away, get back to your corner, and come back once you've watched the film. So can we kick things off with what I was talking about before? With
It's the big spoiler.
yeah, I really so there's a few follow-on effects of this. Number one, that relationship was so great in the first one. I think that was a big presence missing of her character.
I mean,
so Miranda Baccarin's character dies in the opening of the film.
when
She
did
gets
you realize that she was
killed.
going to die?
As soon as they said they were going to make a Deadpool sequel, because they always do this shit. Like if a character
the
ends up in
girl
a happy
and then-
relationship in the first movie, they could just get rid of him in the second one. Like
Yeah.
usually they don't even acknowledge that they ever existed. But I'm like, they're not going to just let these. They don't let characters that just have a happy relationship in movies. It's got to become a revenge story or some bullshit.
Yeah.
I hate that. I mean, everyone is probably familiar with the concept of fridging, which is one of those insidious tropes in comic book and movie storytelling, especially just where a female love interest is killed to further a male character's story. And we don't need to get too political about this, but it always puts a sour taste in my mouth, especially in 2018 when they're doing it. And they comment on it a little bit in the James Bond opening sequence and make it a joke, which it helped a little bit, but it was still just like, could they seriously not think of a story where he just gets to have his happy relationship and they can still have a funny movie?
And there's a way to do the X-Force and make that happen without having to kill that character. Because I felt like this whole movie, in a lot of ways, was kind of just getting the X-Force together. And I don't think
she
it was
could have been
purely
Marty
guilty of
X-Force.
that. It wasn't purely guilty of that, but that was one of the issues in this. It was like so focused on that. I need a family. I need to find my family. You know, that was the main arc of this. And I felt as well the visual when he kept going back to see her in the room and there's like the force field that he can't get through. I found that visual so piss weak. And it had no emotional resonance. And by the third act, when he's back in there, hugging her and shit, I was like, this is really doing absolutely nothing for me.
Really?
I want this to, let's wrap this up.
I thought that was a pretty sweet moment. I don't think they sold like the X-Force as family element strong enough to be like, no, we
Well,
have to
and
bring
this
him
is-
back. It's like, no, just let him enjoy
Yeah,
his
you know how
there's
you
a
do
lot
this?
of things happening. So, but before you, that's one of the aspects that we mentioned before about how there seems to be a lot of different storylines going on, and I felt like that was one that wasn't really explored for obvious reasons, but more importantly that, you know, he's trying to find a family with his, you know, X-Force brothers, and he's also trying to find a kid, and like I felt like there was the character was being pulled in too many directions.
Yeah, I mean, like the way we're talking about this movie, you wouldn't even think there's like a time travel assassination plot happening in it as well.
yeah,
Because
we haven't
there's
even
an
commented on
X-Force
that.
movie and there's a Cable movie happening here.
Yeah.
So do you know, here's a way to fix that whole thing. She doesn't die at the beginning, but they can't have a kid. So he wants to find a kid, and his kid is Julian Dennison.
See,
Solved.
No, I
solved.
really liked
And you don't have
the
to kill her
emotional
off.
pull.
You don't have to kill her off.
I liked the emotional pull of it.
What about you make you bring drama around the fact that he can't have a kid, the fact that they can't have
It's
a kid
not as
together.
impactful.
It
It
is.
just- it just
impacts
isn't.
people. It impacts
How
people.
can you
sure it does.
possibly be
Movies.
impacted by the girlfriend getting killed again? Like, how can you be impacted other than seriously again? Like it says in the credits, like, did they actually just do that?
Yeah.
Like that is so.
So I'm confused. Like I'm not looking at this through a political landscape. It's a fucking person that's just lost the person that they love.
Just as
Of
a
course
movie
that's gonna be
watcher, like you're not
impactful.
sick of that happening again and again and again.
I
I was
mean,
so pissed when they killed Roxy in Kingsman 2. Piece
If
of
it-
shit that was, but it's like that was
Oh,
a
yeah.
cool
See,
character
but
from the first
that's
one.
bullshit.
Who they're going to do nothing with in this.
I mean, if it's just to free up a character or something like that, yeah, it's just kind of one of those things that you're like, all right, whatever. But that's definitely not what this.
Really? 'Cause
I think
for
that's
me,
what it was.
Stank of that.
And from what I hear, they were like scheduling issues with her doing a TV show, so she couldn't be in it as much as possible. But the movie, as it is, the choice they make to do that, I'm like, I would have preferred a version of this where she was a character in it,
Yeah, me too.
not a plot device.
But she featured throughout the entire thing. Like she wasn't going to get much more screen time like that in that movie, whether she was alive or dead. She didn't get much more than that in the first one either.
She's a really good counter for Deadpool, and those scenes when he goes to the force field, the bedroom, or their apartment in the sort of heaven
I
or
liked
whatever.
that interaction.
Yeah, it just those pieces of dialogue seem so weak to me compared to the chemistry they had on screen in the first one.
Yeah, I mean that was definitely I liked their playing off, but again, there's not enough room to have that same kind of interaction in this film. We've already talked about how that character is being pulled in too many directions, and you want a fully fledged relationship between those two in the second one as well. Like, where are you going to put that?
I think that's one of the issues. I think there's multiple issues in this film.
But I'm asking you, like, where would you put that? Like, there's just no room for that in the film.
I think that would have been
plenty of
better than
places.
some of the other stuff they did.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
yeah, but sure, but then you have to start deciding on what to take away, and I don't think you can start adding stuff into this. I think you just need to be stripping it back.
I'm specifically saying they should have started from a point of let's make this a story about Wade and Vanessa.
The first one was about that.
No, I know exactly, and it works so well. I'm like, let's keep them as a pair. I thought that worked really well.
Yeah, look,
And he saved her at the end of he saved her in the first film, and then she just dies in this. And I was like, ballsy move. I sat there when that happened in the cinema. I was like, ballsy fucking move. Let's see how this goes. And for me, it didn't pan out.
Especially since he undoes it at the end, and
yeah, well, I mean,
makes the whole
we
thing
can talk about that
yeah.
later. But like, I mean, for the chunk of the film that you're actually experiencing it in, I think that was hugely impactful. Like, I felt when the very short amount of time that they had together at the beginning, when she's talking about how they want a family, and like that really, like, it just felt homely and good, and the fact that they homely, homely, whatever.
He's homely. She's fine.
Yeah. And the fact that they took that away in such a brash way, and that it really kind of resonated with him as like it was his fault and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I thought that was a really good emotional kick to this film. I don't think you would have been able to have the same kind of emotional kick if you had gone through a plot like, oh, you know, they can't have kids or something like that. I mean, if you want to spend an entire movie on it, fine, but I don't think that that's going to have the same kind of kick that this had right off the bat.
I disagree, but you know, I want to see that character
You
more.
think they could have set up that kind of emotional kick with?
Of course,
we can't have a baby.
Of course,
the emotions of the current storyline didn't work for me at all because I just thought it was so trite.
Because I think the
And
emotions
also,
got lost in the complexity of the plot later on.
And the thing is
I agree with
Deadpool should be fucking crushed by this, and he wasn't. He was like,
he tried to blow himself up. Like, what? How crushed do you want?
Like, I wanted him. He's so unhinged as a character. I wanted more. And I think you guys are right. I think there was just so many things going on. Didn't get that time to get that. Fuck, she's like. Of course, they definitely explored the emotional impact of this, but I wanted more. I wanted to be more fucking devastating.
And opposed to something like John Wick, there was no real catharsis because he'd got his revenge 2 minutes after she died, and so then
I thought that was going to be a lot more dark. I don't necessarily mind the way that they went with that, but I thought that he was going to go like, ham on that guy.
Yeah, because like. We talked about this in the Deadpool 1 review, is that sequence where he's getting tortured and getting fucked up. We didn't get anything to that effect in this one. You know, that really dark
But again, I don't think you have the time for it.
You take something out, you swap it, trade it.
Yeah, no, like I agree. I think that there should have been entire plot, aspects of this film that should have been taken out. But I don't think you should be taking plot things out to put other stuff in. I just don't think that that's how that should have gone.
We're going in circles here.
Let's talk about Cable.
Yeah, I think to segue into that, I think a much simpler version of this movie could have just been, they're a happy couple. She's not in the movie too much because he's off on an adventure with Cable. Easy. We don't need this forced through line of him mourning her being shot to death. So Cable is... I think we agreed doesn't have all the time in the world in this film.
Nope.
But he does a good job of it, what he does have.
Yeah, I really enjoyed, especially his action scenes. He's a fucking badass.
Yeah.
And them going at it, like, there was really good that's what I mean. Like, his action scenes I felt were really tight.
He had that fluidity with all his tech that he had. Yeah, I highly agree with that.
The scowl on his face the entire time. Like, it was a great physical performance through and through.
Yeah, I'd have liked to have seen like Brolin as a Terminator or something almost.
Well, this film, like, the plot involving the time travel is Terminator 2 and Looper.
Yeah,
but not as clever as Looper.
Because
the time travel aspect in Looper was that Bruce Willis went back in time, and because he went back in time, he triggered the kid to become a psycho who in the future became this gangster. And in this one, there's nothing clever about it. He just goes back in time and he tries to stop the kid.
Again, we're talking about we wanted to strip back and not make it more complicated. So
you're talking about that a lot.
That's fine. But yeah, I liked Brolin. I liked the interaction between them. You got a good chemistry between Josh Brolin and Ryan Reynolds and those two characters, and it really set it up for the next kind of film.
Yeah, for sure.
But that entire plot line I felt could have been a little bit more
fleshed out.
Yeah, and more kind of made that a little bit more centric to it.
Because I wanted to see more of the future. I wanted to see more about Cable. I always harp on this podcast about how much I love the alternate timeline aspect of X-Men and seeing those fucked up future worlds that are in ruin and chaos. I wanted to see more. I wanted to know more about this guy. Why is he... What is he doing? You know,
how did he lose his arm? How did he lose... Yeah, like
the
all
balance
the
between character and
getting
plot
his hair
device
cut and...
was not as strong as it could have been. Because, at the end when he saves his family, then he's just like, no, I'm not going to go back. It's like if he were a main character in this, that wouldn't be the direction this has gone. This is becoming a plot thing now.
Yeah. I wanted to see more.
Could be. I think that he would have... Oh, I can see it being if he was a main character, like, the self-sacrifice move.
Oh, yeah, if they made that... If they dedicated time to making that work, sure. But as it was, their relationship...
But he's not a main character.
Like, why would he... No, he's got one jump left. Why would he... And also, why would he do everything exactly the same? So, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't think it's worth getting too much into
the logistics of that ending aren't amazing.
It could have been worse.
I watched it again today.
It
absolutely could have been. But why didn't Colossus just rip his fucking neck thing off? And then he would have been fine.
Yeah.
Because those
collars
the
teacher
came off several times.
That was, the most obvious thing for me was like, why don't they just put a bullet in that teacher's head?
Okay, so a huge thrust of this film is they don't want Julian Dennison's character to kill. They're like, we got to stop him from being a murderer. And Deadpool is the biggest fucking psychopathic murderer in any comic book movie ever. And I'm like,
that's one of the
that's hard to sell. That's a really hard sell.
That was one of the weaknesses of the film. I felt like they hadn't really thought that through.
The entire plot happens because of a future that happens because Deadpool shot one guy and not the other at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, you can't kill this guy, even though I just shot that other guy who was probably more innocent than this dude.
Yeah. So I there's a couple of little plot holes. Can we talk about a positive? Because I feel like, again, we're railing on this film.
Hell yeah. Actually, really like this film. Yeah,
X-Force.
And this won't be a positive for everyone because this was heavily promoted as an X-Force film.
Yes, it was. But I fucking loved it.
I loved it.
I loved the just the brashness of it.
So he assembles a team.
And he pulls them over.
They hop in the plane.
The X-Force you've seen in the trailers, and they all die at the beginning of the first mission.
Oh.
Even Peter, which shocked me. I thought he was going to be the guy
who
survived. I didn't like that. I thought that was really unpleasant. Because I thought the running gag would be that he survived. And everyone else has got a horribly...
I love the fact that when he goes back and fixes the timelines
he
again...
saves Peter at least.
He saves Peter.
So much of the end credits scene of this film saves a lot of the rest of the film for me.
Yeah.
Which is horrible. It's such a bad thing.
But I love that he did it anyways. It's like zero fucks are given. Yeah, I loved how they spent time like killing them in different ways.
Yeah, so
I
good.
love the Vanisher. Like Brad Pitt is the Vanisher. So many weird cameos in this film. Like this is chock block full of cameos.
That cameo didn't work for me. That was weird. But
Really?
I thought the gag was funny.
Yeah, I only realized, I was like, was that Brad Pitt? And then when the credits came out, I was like, that's fucking Brad Pitt.
I thought that was an underutilized character. I thought there could have been a funny joke about them never knowing if he was actually there or not.
Yeah.
Because they do it in the first one when they're interviewing him. They're like, is he actually here?
I would have liked to have seen that where like he didn't have the backpack on. Like you don't see anything. I'm like, I'm assuming you're there.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, totally.
But I love Bill Skarsgård flying into that wood chipper. Holy shit, dude.
I just love Bill Skarsgård though, so I would like to see more of
that's
him.
funny.
I was just like, Pennywise. Fuck.
Yeah. Like Terry Crews didn't do anything in this film, which is
nothing.
He's literally the scenes that he's in the trailer is what he's in this movie, basically.
Yeah. Like the punchline's hilarious, but Terry Crews is so good. Like he would have been funny in this movie.
Yeah, and out of all the X-Force that tragically died, that was the one that I was like, oh, I wish Terry Crews had survived because I wanted to see him.
Also, he's Terry Crews, so it didn't register immediately that he died when he hit the bus because I'm like,
yeah,
because the others were so visceral and like bloody and gory, and he just like hit a bus.
I was
and
like,
he's Terry Crews.
He like
Terry Crews, his character didn't survive it. Terry Crews could have survived that.
If he was playing himself, he'd have been fine. Yeah.
I don't know if I ever said it on the pod, but I did sort of predict that the X-Force would all just die straight away because they're not in the trailers at all, except for the kind of the interview scene.
Yeah,
and I'm glad they didn't spoil that gag. in the
Yeah,
trailers at all.
definitely.
And speaking of not spoiling things, I'm not sure why, but the Juggernaut is in this, which was slightly rumored, but not hinted at all in the trailers, like at all.
Where's
and-
Vinnie Jones?
They should have got Vinny back. They didn't even reference him, which is funny.
Yeah.
Was that worth? Is the Juggernaut an interesting enough character that they should have kept him a secret?
I think what happened, and I think that they were making more than enough reference to this in the film, is that's probably a favorite of Ryan Reynolds, not necessarily fandom. And the other thing I want to talk about with the Juggernaut is he looked ropey as fuck.
Yeah, not super effective.
Yeah, it did the job, but there was some dodgy. I was
I
like,
would've
his eyeballs look blurry.
100% rather have had Vinnie Jones in that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
With this weird helmet.
It was
Yeah,
funny.
fuck it, man.
His big rubber suit. It was a weird inclusion because he didn't do particularly much. He wasn't like the main antagonist or anything. He was just sort of there to show up and rip Deadpool in half and be played by someone ambiguous because in the credits it just says voice of Juggernaut as himself.
Yeah.
So I don't know who that is.
What about Domino? You guys like Domino?
Love Domino.
Underutilized though, right? I wanted more.
Definitely
I wanted
wanted
another
more,
5
yeah.
scenes.
Yeah,
Another 3
I don't know.
scenes.
I don't know how you do that. Again, it's so tough to try and figure out what should have stayed in this film, what should have left. You know, there's so many interesting aspects in all of them. I think for what she had, she did a really good job. Was it Zazie Beetz? Is her name?
Zazie Beetz, yeah.
Zazie Beetz. I loved her in this.
These.
I thought she was fantastic.
Yeah, I really loved her. I thought her.
But there's not much. She didn't do much, to be honest. She just had that kind of calm, collected.
Yeah.
Whatevs.
Yeah.
Like their interaction, Ryan Reynolds and her, when they do the
The interview.
it is, it isn't, it is, it isn't. I thought she held her on brilliantly, and I loved that exchange. And it's so simple and it's so childish, but I thought that she really pulled it off.
I dug how they did her power as well. I think they left it. They didn't do a full like. It works in this way. It's just like go with it. She's lucky. Like shit just goes right. Deal with it.
And they didn't overplay it either. Like she still got hurt.
Yep.
And like, it wasn't always every time someone like pointed a gun at her, that was the same thing. Like, oh, it just doesn't work. They only did that once, which I thought was really good. But yeah.
Speaking of her being lucky, the only difference between the 2 endings of this film with the time travel and they go back and do it again is that in one of them they just take his collar off because Julian Dennison like lockpicks it and then she says the code and they take it off.
Yep. Yeah,
So
that's right.
They could have just done that the first time.
7.
No,
It's
well,
butterfly effects. Because remember, he died when he had the collar on the first time.
Yeah.
Like he split in fucking half, but then the collar came off and he was fine.
yeah, I suppose.
Like I mean, he just got shot in the heart. Like they could have just taken him. Anyway.
Anything else you guys want to talk about in this film? I'd like to just quickly say I loved the credit scene. I didn't think they were going to be able to up the first one. And I think they fucking did it. That James Bond credit sequence was fucking tops.
Right. The
that
opening
one.
credits.
Yeah, loved that.
Like, sorry, not end credits.
I like the
beginning
song.
Credits.
I really like the
Love
song.
the
Yeah.
song. That's a Celine Dion one,
Celine
right?
Dion, he was
Loved
doing
it.
some
Of course, I
advertising.
never watched it.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Speaking of credit scenes, the end credits when he goes back and fixes the timelines, when he takes out the old Weapon X or whatever the fuck it is,
Yeah.
so funny.
Yeah.
So good.
That end credit scene was better than the first 2 Deadpool films. Like that was the
Oh.
best. That was the best thing they've done. It was amazing.
And when
100%.
Ryan Reynolds gets the Green Lantern script, he's like, "This is gonna be it, baby.
Welcome to the big
fuck.
leagues.
Welcome
I-
to the big league."
Absolutely loved. I don't know. So I was worried that Cable was going to go back with his second jump and save the girlfriend, and therefore stop any of this from happening. I was like, oh, I don't know if I like
Which
that.
would have been a real cop out if they did that. Oh wait, they did do that.
But I loved how he did it once the film had finished, because it
Yeah.
felt like him being like, we don't want to lose this character, but the plot has served its purpose type thing, so that we're just gonna like
It's so weird.
keep
like,
her
yeah,
around.
I love that he saved her because as we've said exhaustively, I feel like it was a huge mistake killing her, but it just makes the whole thing feel a bit weird. Like, what was
It doesn't.
what
It doesn't.
what was
Like,
any of that
I'm
about?
so around it. I love the idea that instead of trying to justify bringing her back, they're just like, no, we're gonna give you the dumbest thing. Like he went and stole Cable's time traveling machine, and he went back and he just aimed better.
And so, unfortunately, this end credit scene both saves and hurts the film because stuff happens in it that makes it better, but also it just hints at a Deadpool 3 that I wish Deadpool 2 was. It could have just been a wacky time travel adventure with him and Cable just doing nuts shit.
Yeah.
Folding back in on itself, like doing their own timeline stuff
like
again.
that they tried to... I don't think they could have done that with Deadpool 2 because I like the way that they built up the relationship between him and Deadpool. I think that an adversarial aspect to it, to begin with at least, is a good way to go, particularly because
I think they absolutely could have done that for half the film as they did in this one.
I don't know if there's enough time for that, man. I don't
There
know.
would have been more time because we could have cut out the X-Force and the revenge plot, and even Julian Dennison's character, who I liked his portrayal, but I don't think that needed to be this whole family angle and shit. I don't know.
Yeah,
like the ending, where it's like
this
it's all
movie
about
tried
family.
to do a lot of things,
Yeah,
and I think it suffered for it. Having said that, I found it really entertaining. I really loved that X-Force gag, and
that's one of the best bits.
Yeah, and I did like the emotional kick you got from killing Vanessa. I thought that was really impactful, especially with the like just how happy they were at the beginning. I knew she was dead as soon as that movie started. As soon as he was sitting on the bloody, as soon as he was in the apartment as Deadpool, I was like, oh, Vanessa died.
Yeah,
that kind of bummed me out. But
when he said "fuck Wolverine," I was kind of hoping that he'd stolen Vanessa or something.
Yeah.
Trying to get her back would have been a funnier plot, I think. The hard thing about this movie is I did find it very funny, but it's hard to, in reviewing it, it's hard to say, oh, it was funny. It was really funny the whole time. I think it was funny throughout, but in terms of talking about the actual content of it, all I can say is mostly negative stuff, unfortunately.
One thing I did want to talk about that I really enjoyed, Dopender, the character of Dopender, and his character arc as this like bloodthirsty... I love that gag. I love that joke. I love that running kind of character development for him.
He was...
And also
that was fantastic.
Yeah, and the girlfriend gag, which you mentioned, Ben, about Megasonic or whatever her name is, her girlfriend, and Ryan Reynolds always doing like the waving.
Hi, Wade.
The
Hi, Yukio.
the Bowie gag was one of the best. that
good.
was seriously just tickled me beyond belief. Did you guys feel this just popped into my mind. Like, there's shots in the bar with TJ Miller and Deadpool. It was like almost like, sometimes you see a TV show become a movie and somebody else, a different cinematographer, gives it a different look. This definitely had a very different look in that bar scene. It was kind of wigged me out a little bit.
Different from the other rest of this film?
So Deadpool 1 versus Deadpool 2?
The first one, yeah.
Yeah. Like it had a different cinematography kind of look to it.
Oh, yeah. And I don't necessarily think that was a bad thing.
Not good or bad, but just kind of like, oh, okay, it's different,
Yeah.
It was just interesting to see those guys interacting, and it's different angles, different lighting.
Yeah, I mean, the whole movie had a great look, really, when it wasn't too drenched in like 70% quality CGI.
I really
like the color
look.
palette of this film is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That's
I really
something
like-
Leach is great at.
I really like the look of this film.
I'm glad
found
you
it.
cut me off of that. Sorry.
There were a couple of moments that I thought the CGI was a bit dodgy, like Juggernaut, and some of but I kind of picked that in the trailer though. There was a couple of scenes in the trailer that I said I hope they fix, but I don't think they will. Because overall, I think this movie looks better than the first one.
Well, anything else, fellas?
No, I think that's it.
Cool.
I liked it.
Deadpool 2. I think we all liked it, but overall, compared to number one, not as good. And,
know what I think it
hilarious,
is?
but it's hard to sort of give a review and say, this joke was great, this joke was great, this joke was great.
Do you know what I think it was? Is that this movie is far more ambitious than the first one. It tries to do more, and so there's more areas to nitpick. There's more areas for it to fail.
More areas it does fail in, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Inevitably. And I think, and you know what? I'm kind of glad that they at least tried for something, a little bit bigger. I don't often kind of go for that, but I reckon this one was a good reach. Maybe didn't get, the same kind of stranglehold on it as the first one did, but I appreciated the reach.
Cool.
I thought they hit it so hard in the credit sequence of the first one that, this is going to be a Cable movie. This is going to be Cable next. And I don't think they hit that angle very strong in this. So unfortunately, while I did enjoy it, I feel like I'm always going to be watching it mourning the movie that wasn't.
Yeah.
Which is a damn shame.
Well, you'll get either X-Force or Deadpool 3, and that'll almost certainly be more of a buddy movie between him and Brolin.
Maybe they'll try and stuff more in there. Maybe they'll do an even bigger team thing.
You never know.
Get ready. All right, guys, we'll be here for Deadpool 3 and X-Force 8. Get ready. Don't forget, guys, we'll have our solo review up real soon. So definitely go check that out. Maybe it's up now. I don't know.
Who can
I
say?
just don't know anymore. We'll be back next week with the weekly movie show with the Boys Club.
See ya.
Benny.